All right, there we go.
Okay. I think you are able to see my screen, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, Doctor.
Thanks very much, Mr. Kibaba, for this invitation. We've come a long way. I'm delighted to see the wonderful people in the background.
Yeah.
Lady and gentlemen, good morning, and delighted to meet you.
Good morning, Doctor.
Yeah, so with Mr. Kibaba, we've held several sessions within the Rwenzori region over a few years. And our area of emphasis was, of course, a particular genre of journalism called peace journalism, which of course emphasizes the fact that we live with conflicts, we live in conflict zones, and that's human nature.
Okay.
But as we are journalists, we should not be able to escalate those conflicts. We should cover them in a way that, you know, promotes common ground, and by so doing, we end up by promoting peace. But having said that, and we've been, you know, preparing other sessions in environmental journalism, and many others, health reporting, and so on and so on. However, what we ought to remember, irrespective of whichever type of journalism you want to end up with, if you want to become a health reporter, a peace journalist, an environmental journalist, a political reporter, all those types of journalism really depend on the same principles, but most importantly, every journalist serves the same functions. And that's what I want to work with you. That's what I want to, because when Mr. Kibaba invited me, he wanted me to speak to a foundational topic. And that foundational topic for me, you may have already handled it with him or any other trainers, but if you have, that's okay. Repetition is also important because it is emphasis. So this morning, what I want to handle with you are the functions of journalism. And I want to emphasize these functions because I strongly believe that this is the foundation. When you are building a house, you start with a foundation. You lay the foundation, you put there stones, you know, very hard stones, and even the Bible is very clear that if you don't lay a very good foundation, you know, your house will be blown away. So we need a very strong foundation as journalists. And therefore, that foundation is when we understand the meaning of our profession, what we stand for, why we are important. And this, in my view, is something we ought to remind ourselves of on a daily basis, because journalism globally, as Mr. Martin will tell you, is in a crisis. Is in a crisis because of changes in technology. Everyone now can become a journalist just by holding a cell phone. They go out there, they record, they post on social media, you know, and people will take that as the news when it would not be the case. So that's why it's absolutely critical for us, you people who are going to journalism school, who are undertaking journalism training, to understand and remind yourself of the functions you have to play. And that becomes a self-check for you, because you would be able to tell yourself that if I am unable to fulfill these functions, then let me leave this profession because it is not meant for me. Okay, so this is by way of repetition. I know Mr. Kibaba must have, taken you through some of these, which is okay. But when you hear it from someone else, then you'll be like, okay, I think that's very important. So number one, in my view, and we all know that it's critical for us to know that our primary function is to provide information to the people out there, okay? To inform, that is function number one. I have put here that lawyers tend to say that they call themselves the land friends, and we call them ourselves the informed friends. So the informational role of journalism speaks to two things. Number one, that you yourself ought to be very informed, because you cannot inform people when you yourself is not informed. So you, to become a good journalist, you must read widely. Every day you must follow news from other sources, listen to different types of radio, listen to Al Jazeera, watch different types of TV. Of course, definitely we have to follow social media, what is happening there. So you have to be informed, but also reading, general reading, okay? You as a journalist, even if you did not do economics, there is a genre of journalism called business economics, okay? So you ought to understand a bit of economics, a bit of politics, a bit of everything, okay? Of course, later on, you are called upon to specialize, but we in the global South are not privileged as yet to specialize, where you have someone that this one is doing one particular type of the genre of journalism. For us, we tend to be generalists. So please, number one, be very well informed so that you can then be able to inform others. So that's function number one. We as journalists have a responsibility of informing other people. But you cannot talk about empumi mujimanya. Empumi, do you know empumi?
No, we don't, Doctor.
Empumi the blind. In Orotoro, how do you call them? The blind. Yes. So you cannot, it's the same translation. Basically, for you use it in a longer, but in Runyankore, it's empumi, the one who does not see. So you can't be chamisho and then you read other people. So that's why it is absolutely critical for you to be informed so that you can inform other people. So you people in the room, read widely, anything you come across, books, but start with newspapers every day, read them, go online, international news, so that you are informed. By so doing, if you are informed, then you can be able to inform other people. Number two, you as a journalist are called upon to educate. And when we say educate, we don't just mean teachers. I am a teacher. Mr. Kibaba is a teacher. So we provide education by passing on formal knowledge to others, okay? That is formal education. But you as a journalist, you are called upon to provide guidance on complicated issues. They could be political. Once again, I've talked about, politics. It could be economics. It could be on law. People are confused about the Constitution. And you go on television and you go on radio, you, the journalist, must be informed so that you can be able to educate. So you see the two roles, the informational role and the educational role, are quite linked. They are twins, okay? But the second one is that you must have the capacity to break down complex information and interpret it and explain it to other people. By so doing, you are educating them. So role number one, informational, is just to give people news. Something has happened in Kasese, something has happened in Congo, something has happened in Kampala, something is happening in the Gaza Strip. That is informational. Okay, you are informing people. But the educational role goes deeper than just providing information to people, because you are breaking down complex information. People will not understand, why are the Jews, killing the Palestinians? What's the problem? Why has this war been there for a very long time? Mr. Kibaba stayed in the United States for a couple of years. How come that, Donald Trump, who seems to have done terrible things, we saw them attacking the parliament and all that, but he's coming back to stand as president? How come? What does the Constitution of the United States say? So that is, you have to be informed to understand global issues, national issues, because when you have that information, you pass on that information to others. But by so doing, you must also play the educational role. That goes deeper, and it is so critical for you as journalists to take this very seriously, because we are the ones who have the tools. We have the radio, we have the newspapers, we have television, we now have online sources. Do not leave these online platforms to people who are disinformed, because we are getting a lot of information from people who are blind. Nabashema, they don't understand the issues they are dealing with, but they are the ones who are on social media providing information to the world. When you people who are there, who are informed, who are experts, you don't take this role very seriously. So please, these are very important roles that we must take very, very seriously. Function number 3 of journalism is sometimes, called the watchdog role. The watchdog role. You've heard about it. If you haven't, now you are hearing it. So you will also hear people say, oh, the media is the fourth estate. Maybe at this point I can check with you. When we say the media is the fourth estate, might you have an idea as to the other estates or arms of government? I can hear you if you speak. So the 3 arms of government, number 1. The executive, thank you very much. Number 2.
The legislature.
The legislature, thank you very much. Number 3.
The judiciary.
The judiciary, thank you very much, sir. Excellent, okay? The 3 arms of government. And we say we are the fourth arm of government, the fourth estate. And by that we say it's our responsibility, because we have the mandate. We are mandated by the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. When you read Article 29 of the Constitution, it gives us those powers, okay? But Article 29 of our Constitution is also linked to international instruments, okay? If you look at Article 19 of the human rights, the United Nations Human Rights Charter, but also it's the same Article 19 in the African Charter. All of them speak to freedom of the press, freedom of the media, and it gives us the mandate to provide information, to check power, to monitor the centers of power. Because if we don't do that, we are the privileged people who have the tools of informing people, of educating people. By so doing, that gives us a responsibility to monitor the centers of power, to hold the powerful to account. It's a very, very important responsibility that we hold dear, and we must take it very, very seriously. Because if we don't do it, who will do it? It's our absolute responsibility. So when you hear people calling us the watchdogs. It speaks to that function of monitoring power. It speaks to our fourth estate role. It speaks to that important responsibility that we have to make sure that we monitor. And when we say power, by the way, power is spread. Power of the religious, different centers of power. Religious organizations are very powerful. They collect a lot of money. Those pastors collect a lot of money, and they do not have any accountability mechanisms. So we ought to monitor those as well. The cultural institutions, you in Toro, you have a cultural institution. The money that they collect, all these donations that they get, do they provide those services? People, so the cultural institutions, not just the political, that one is obvious, but politics also, you have politics at the national level, you have politics at the regional level, okay? The RDCs and the LC5s and the LC3s, all these people receive a lot of funding. Then, of course, look at all the other arms. Look at from LC5 to 4 to 3, and all those people receive government funding. Are they using the money properly? That is our big role of holding the powerful to account. So when we say holding the powerful to account, you just have to look at the different power centers and make sure that we hold everyone that is powerful to account. The teachers, we as lecturers in the university, we also wield a lot of power, okay? And we ought to be checked. Function number 4 is what we call you being the voice of those whose voices are curtailed. I wouldn't want to say that they are voiceless. People have voice, but we understand what we mean when we say we are there to speak for those who are not privileged like us, to speak, for themselves. So these people, when we say those who are not privileged, we are talking about, the sick, those people who are downtrodden, and we know them in our society. So it's absolutely critical for us, because we are privileged to have that voice. We have the radio stations, we have the television stations, we have the newspapers and other tools of our trade. It's our responsibility and the function of journalism to make sure that that we provide voice to those whose voice is curtailed, who have no proper voice the way we have. So that's a very important function that we ought to take very seriously, and you should hold your, walk with your shoulders very high, that you are the voice of the voiceless. You are able to monitor the centers of power. Function number 5, the socialization function. We live in a country and in a world that sadly is fractious. Too many fractions based on race, as in racism, functions based on tribalism, okay? We Ugandans are very familiar with that. We don't have a very big problem of race, because we are monolithic. Yes, of course, a couple of Indians and Asians are coming and all that. That might bring a few problems, but at least we don't have a very big problem of race. But we have a growing problem of ethnicity, tribalism, as you want to call it. But there are also others, religious. This is a Muslim, Catholic, Anglican, I don't know this or all that. So religious factionalism is also there. The biggest wars in the world have been based mainly on factionalism. Look at what is happening in Israel, in Palestine. Jews against Palestinians. Okay, basically a religious war that it's you know, racial, ethnic religious combined. Look at what is happening in Ukraine, you know. But when you come here, our own continent, the biggest genocides that have happened was based on inability, the inability of the media to socialize people, okay, to bring people together. So the socialization function is that we as media ought to unite people. It's our responsibility to make sure that we promote unity, we promote common ground, because we are one people, all created in the image of God. It's our total responsibility to make sure that we socialize people. Do not go on radio and start, you know, talking about, you know, in the Rwenzori region, of course, you know, you have the people in Kasese, Batoro and Bakonzo, and I don't know who, whatever, the pastorists, and then the, you know, individuals, there will be bad individuals. Those bad individuals sometimes have the capacity to mobilize others to support their causes. And it's those bad individuals that we as journalists ought to look out for and expose, instead of putting all people in a group together. Abakonjo barbati, abamba barbati, these people in Semiriki, what are they called? These pastorists in Kasese.
The Banyabindi.
The Banyabindi. There are others, these ones in Kasese. Binenti.
Basongora, yes.
The Basongora, yes, in Kasese. So that conflict among the Basongora and the locals there, you know. So when you put people together and you say the Basongora like that, the Batora like that, the Tutsi are like that, it is a very serious problem when you do that, because at the end of the day, it's one group, one person actually in that particular group, or maybe a leader who now uses the group to feign conflict within that particular group. But when you realize it critically, you realize that the other people actually are good people. So it's a responsibility, especially you journalists in Uganda, to make sure that you socialize people. You socialize people. It's absolutely critical for us not to fan the drums of war, the drums of tribalism. I live in Kampala here. When it is election period, you know, you get very scared. By the end of the day, some people have framed my ethnic group. You know, I did not choose to be born in Munyankore. I found myself, you know, one. So, but during political campaigns, especially here in the central region, it is becoming a very big issue that, you know, particular group of people are being targeted. Oh, Banyankore, you have done this, but you know, politics, the political class form their own tribe, you know. So it is Museveni with Anita Among, who is an Atesot, and a group of so many others. You will find they have their own tribe, they have their own clan of corrupt people. It's not one particular group that is, you know, the Banyankore have done that, the Batoro have done that. No, it's a group of people. So you as journalists, in this function of socialization, we are particularly enjoined, we as journalists, to be mindful of that. Because be aware that there are politicians out there who actually benefit. Their political capital is on divisiveness, is on dividing people. you know, they will try to write on religion, the Catholics against Anglicans, these ones Christians against Muslims. Then they will write on ethnicity, okay? There are some, and that, this, oh, we are going to help you, you know? So there are so many politicians who want to ride on divisionism, you know, dividing people. We as journalists ought to be mindful of that and niche it in the bud. Do not be used to fan the flames of conflict. That's what the socialization function speaks to. And for that, there is a whole genre of journalism called conflict-sensitive reporting. And my brother Kibaba is an expert in that. Peace journalism is an expert in that. That speaks to mainly that last function of us making sure that we do not inflame populations, we promote common ground, we socialize people. It's a very, very important function, and I've taken long on it because it is very dear to my heart. It's very dear to my heart. I witnessed firsthand, as a very young man, the genocide in Rwanda. I almost became a victim there as well. So I know exactly what I'm talking about and the power that the media has to inflame populations. You just go on radio, okay? In the comfort on the microphone there, and you start, you know, inflaming populations. You go on television and start inflaming populations. So there are very clear laws against that. First of all, in our penal code, but there are also international instruments that were formed in response to the Rwandan conflict, even before that to the Nazi, you know, Nazi Germany, precisely about that. So this is very, very important, and I've taken long because it is very, very dear to my heart. The last function, of course, there are very many functions, but the 6 here are the main ones. Then within those ones, you can, of course, insert a few others that are quite generic. Now, the last function, and I said at the start that really my job here is to remind you, it's a kind of refresher because I know Mr. Kibaba must have, you know, or someone else he has invited must have talked about these functions of journalism. But this is by way of emphasis, saying it in different words, adding some emphasis here and there so that it sinks in your brain, because this is very dear to us, and this is what makes you, okay? These are your functions. That's what makes you journalists. And of course, we can talk about now the principles when we have time. Mr. Kibaba, I think, gave me 40 minutes. So we are in about 6 minutes or so, we end. So the last one, the entertainment function. So I would want us to rename this into edutainment. You cannot run away from entertainment. It's very big, especially in the broadcast media, but also for print. You are not going to write very long, boring stories, and you think you are going to keep your readership. So it is very, very critical that we take this very seriously. But here's the challenge. When you look at journalism in Uganda, especially broadcast journalism, radio stations and all that, I mean, you are aware of this. The overemphasis on entertainment, okay, to the detriment of these other roles up here. You're playing music, showbiz stars, to see that you know, DJs are paid better than we as journalists, you know, is there. But yes, it's very big. We cannot run away from it. The entertainment sector pays far more, you know, pays far more money. But I want you to take this a step further. It offers a lot of you know, sports journalism in particular. I mean, look at how many people, you know, are addicted. I may call it addicted to soccer. People watching football. They know all the stars and all the teams in Europe and all over the place. So it's a very big industry. Okay. That's one wing of entertainment, sports. But gaming and all these other things and all that, it's very important. And I'm not banalizing it. So, but you can't while entertaining. You can entertain while informing people. So I listen, to the morning shows when I'm dropping kids to school and when I'm coming back. And I'm glad that, these guys are playing very good music, but in between they are providing very good information about world politics, about national politics, about many, many other issues. So I think we are doing pretty well in terms of edutainment. Many DJs, I think Mr. Kibaba, we've been doing a good job of inducting DJs, because when we hold workshops, the ones Mr. Kibaba has been holding in the Renzo region, he invites DJs also. He invites media managers also. And that's so critical because these guys have a very big role. They entertain people, but it's our responsibility to make sure that you people, as you entertain, you educate as well. So those are the main functions of journalism that I wanted to really emphasize. And, there are some good links here that I can share with you. Good and listen. Watch. This is YouTube, because you guys, you are more visual people. What is journalism? So this is a link. So you listen to this and you get some extra input about that. And then another is a TEDx Plano talk. Think like a journalist, by that American. Think like a journalist. So again, it provides some very interesting tips on what you can be able to do to do a fantastic job as journalists. So when we meet next time, we shall talk about the principles of journalism. We don't have time now, but Mr. Kibaba can always organize. I'm available. We shall talk about the principles of journalism, okay? From the functions, these are our functions. Listen to those YouTube. I'm going to share them with Mr. Kibaba to share with you during your free time, or you can even type it in the YouTube. What is journalism and why does it matter? And this, the YouTube thing link will come, and you are able to. But otherwise, if you are unable to get it, I will share these slides with Mr. Kibaba, and you can be able to go in. So next time when we meet, we talk about the principles of journalism. These are very, very critical. Those principles now, when we talked about now the foundation, these ones now again are now the bricks, okay? These are the bricks because we are building a house now. These are the bricks. We talk about the principles, and there are a couple of them. Then the third one will be on the values of news. Again, we look at the different types of values. Those are, again, more bricks that we are putting on this big house that we call journalism. So our time is almost up. I just now want to open up to you. Ask me any question. You can pose some of the the crisis that you have experienced as a journalist or a journalism student relating to these functions of journalism, and we end our engagement this morning. Over to you, Mr. Kibaba and the lovely journalism scholars.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I love when you take my students through the functions of journalism. We had gone through some of these things with them, but it's always good, to be reminded about these things. But also, I don't think the way you've explained these things is the way I did and the other people did. So it's always a good thing to learn from others. I don't know if you guys have any questions. You can, because we have like 2 minutes. If you can ask like one question, and then we call it a day. Dr. William is preparing for his trip to Nairobi.
Wow, thank you, Doctor. I'm very happy that I've heard from a person who has been in the field of teaching for some quite good time. I did some research about him, and he's a person that we've been waiting to hear and speak to. But then he asked
Thank you very much.
to share some of our experiences that we're facing really in the field. On the function of, you said of being a watchdog, and of course, like getting accountable these guys who were in the offices and what. We're finding it a challenge, especially when we're trying to get information from authorities like police and others. How can we go about that?
Okay. Any the other questions so that I take them together?
Thank you so much, Doctor. My question is, what sets good radio apart from other forms of media?
What sets radio apart?
Good radio apart from other forms of media.
Radio from other forms of media? Okay. Thank you very much, lovely people. These are brilliant questions. Number one, sir, what's your name, sir?
I'm Godfrey Mugisa.
Godfrey.
Yes, sir.
Godfrey Mugisa. And the lady?
I'm Tracy Kindiki.
Tracy
Kindiki.
Kindiki. Tracy Kindiki.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. So Godfrey, I hear you. Get information from sources can be quite complicated. Number one, number one tip that I must give you is, first of all, creating rapport with as many sources as you possibly can within the same institution, so that when you fail to get information from, making these people, yes, you are checking them, but do not make yourself an enemy to them. Okay? Do not make yourself an enemy to anyone, because we need these